From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Hickson, joined by my dear friend on the phone.
The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV. Now, Jamie, I got a question for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best baseball game you ever seen?
The best baseball team that I've ever seen?
Yeah, or the best game you ever seen?
Well, the best team I've ever seen was the '98 Yankees when they won 114 games. The best game I've ever seen? Too many to even count. But if I had to pick, it was probably that playoff game that the Yankees lost to the Mariners almost 25 years ago. That was in the division series, game 5 of that division series. I mean, that was classic postseason baseball.
Would you consider the Dodgers and Boston trade a very big deal?
Of course.
Was that explosive?
Of course.
And who made
It was
out-
obvious that the Red Sox were not going to be able to re-sign Betts. Betts did not want to re-sign with them anyway. So it was natural that the Sox were going to try and find a partner to make a deal with. It just so happens that it was with the Dodgers. The deal almost fell through because of medical records regarding one of the prospects that the Twins have, because the Twins were involved in that three-team trade. But fortunately, everything checked out well. So Betts is going to go to L.A. And also, one of the pitchers on the Dodgers is going to be going over to Minnesota.
Now, let me ask you, what was the trade? Do you know offhand?
It was Mookie Betts from the Red Sox to the Dodgers for a couple of minor league prospects, some very good minor league prospects. And the Dodgers also sent Kenta Maeda, one of their top pitchers, over to the Twins for a pitching prospect, who a lot of people say is a really, really good hard thrower as well.
So let me ask you, out of the three teams, who made out the best?
Who do you think? The Dodgers got themselves a center fielder to go along with Cody Bellinger and Max Muncy playing first base as well. I mean, they practically have an all-star lineup in there now.
But do the Dodgers have the pitching now? Or do they have the closer now?
Yeah. Well, they've always had the closer. It's Kenley Jansen. But now the Dodgers are being picked to be World Series favorites.
If nothing happens, they should be they've always been the World Series favorite because it's always been the Astros, the Dodgers, I forgot the other two teams that are normally up there.
Just look at this defensive lineup that the Dodgers have now. Max Muncy at first, Kike Hernandez at second, Corey Seager at shortstop, Justin Turner at third, and an outfield of Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, and probably Chris Taylor playing left field. That's if they could still trade away Jock Peterson, because Jock Peterson was a disappointment this past season.
Yeah, but that's kind of bad, though, because, you are... How long have you been with the team? A year or two?
Let me check out his bio. And for the record, that Jock Peterson trade that the Dodgers had made with the Angels officially canceled. So Peterson's still in L.A. County right now. And for the record, Jock Peterson has been a Dodger 6 seasons.
How old is he?
Right now, Jock Peterson He'll turn 28 in April. And he's a hometown product, too. He's from Northern California. He's from Palo Alto, California.
So
And
what do you think? They should trade him or they should give him another shot? Because remember who you have around him now. There's not enough. He doesn't have any type of pressure on him.
you look at the numbers that he's put up for his career. I mean, he's been really feast or famine. I mean, he only has a 233 batting average, but he has 123 home runs in 6 years with the Dodgers, and including a year where he came off 36 homers and 74 RBIs. But the problem is, if you can only get 74 RBIs from one of your power outfielders, then something's wrong here.
How's his defense?
Defensively, he's been solid. I mean, for his career, let's check out his numbers again.
Because I look at it like this.
He's been mostly a center fielder for his career. He's played 412 games in center and 206 games in left field. And overall, he's made a mere 10 errors in center field. Well, 10 errors in the outfield in general. So overall, defensively, he's been a pretty steady guy.
Because if you have the batting order that you have, you could actually keep a guy like that because he's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a catcher that can't hit, but he's a solid defensive ball player.
Mm-hmm.
And once he's doing the solid defensive ball playing, everybody else is hitting.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with that? Or do
Well,
you
now that
they should get rid of him?
sometimes they always say sometimes the best trades are the ones that you don't make. And now that this deal has been canceled, will this motivate Peterson to maybe step up his A game a little bit, bring up his average a little bit? We're going to have to wait and see.
Where's Puig at?
What's that?
Puig, I think his name.
Yasiel Puig? That's another
Yeah.
guy. Yasiel Puig is still out of a job. And no one has picked him up yet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He's a decent hitter.
Oh, he's more than a decent hitter. He's a great power hitter. And he's usually a pretty good... What's that?
You don't know who you're getting.
Pretty much so. Are you going to get the Yasiel Puig who was lights out his rookie year with the Dodgers, or are you going to get the guy who disappointed the last few years in a Dodger uniform?
And that's the problem because, he's a damn good ball player.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you don't know who you're getting. He's what, 26, 27, somewhere around there?
I think he's around 27 or 28 years of age, yeah.
So either he's finally maturing or he hit his peak already. And then last year he did pretty good.
I'll tell you one thing. Anybody that's missing an outfielder, they're going to need somebody who can not only hit for power, but also play really good defense in the outfield. And Puig, who's a natural right fielder, has one of the best throwing arms in the game. So somebody is going to have to try and make a deal for him because they know that they're not going to have enough outfield depth.
What are the chances of the Mets or Yankees going after him?
Slim.
Because there were rumblings that one of them would go after him.
Well, let's see. The Yankees are still missing Aaron Hicks, and he's recovering from Tommy John surgery. And as of right now, their outfield platoon is Clint Frazier, Brett Gardner, who's re-signed, Aaron Judge, who continues to, even though he's been hitting the ball well, continues to miss time because he's been hurt. Let's see if he can stay healthy for one whole season. As for the
Him
Mets,
and Stanton, Gamble Stanton, and
you mean
the catcher.
Giancarlo Stanton?
Yeah, Giancarlo Stanton and the catcher, Sanchez.
What about him?
If they can stay healthy for a longer period of time, I'd like to see them see if they could actually do something because, like
Well,
we
of
said,
course.
last week, that Stanton's contract is up. I think he's got an out next year.
Mm-hmm.
Sanchez, I think, has an out. There's a couple of people that have outs next year.
Mm-hmm. I would like to
So,
think that the Yankees will make their due diligence and bring Gary Sanchez back for a long, long time because a guy like him with all that power, even though he's been a disappointment defensively, he can still throw base runners out. He just has to
yeah,
work on his mechanics a little bit.
and the problem is he gets hurt, though. You like the Judge and Stanton and everyone else, they all get hurt to the point where they miss a long period amount of time.
He gets hurt, but when he does play, watch out because one mistake made his way and he's going to crush it.
And that's true. So you think the Mets have a good chance of getting Puig?
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, he'd definitely give them a lot of punch in the outfield. And you put him in that lineup along with Michael Conforto and Peter Alonso, forget about it. They could probably combine to hit maybe 140, 150 home runs for the season.
And then you could actually see them as contention to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see
The question
being
is
contention right now?
the question is where do you play him? Because the Mets already have Brandon Nimmo and Michael Conforto and Yoenis Cespedes, who's going to be coming back from his injury woes. You figure those guys are going to be getting all of the starting spots in the outfield. I mean, do you replace or do you move Conforto from right field to center field and make him the center fielder, and then make Puig the right fielder and make Brandon Nimmo a fourth outfielder? That would be my only guess.
I would consider that if they can do that, and they think they can win with that team, yeah.
Because Nimmo's not a power threat. Michael Conforto is a power threat. Yoenis Cespedes is a power threat. Yasiel Puig is a definite power threat. You got all three of those guys patrolling the outfield. I don't know. Maybe the Mets should at least investigate a little bit, do a little kicking of the tires on Puig, see if he's well.
And defensively too.
Yeah.
They're not all that bad. They're very good defensive. Except Puig likes to ham it up once in a while. Well,
yeah, that's his problem. He's got a major habit of daydreaming in the outfield. Yes, Yoenis Cespedes is the same way. He has a bad habit of losing focus in the outfield.
So right now, who do you see? I mean, pitchers and catchers are coming up this week.
Yeah, they're all reporting this week, and then the first games are taking place next weekend.
So, is it like? I don't think it's the same as people wanting football when football first starts. You know.
In terms of what?
Football is a different animal. I think since baseball is so long, and football's only 16 weeks. No, 8 weeks.
17 weeks.
17 weeks. People are more hyped to see football than they do baseball.
Well, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I cannot wait until the first preseason game. The Yankees are going to be playing against the Blue Jays in their first preseason game, scheduled for February 22nd. The Mets, they have the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right.
That's also on the 22nd.
So let me ask you this. On paper, who are the best three teams in each division?
The best three teams in each division?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the AL East, the Yankees would be the odds-on favorite to win the division. Then after that, there's Tampa. Boston, I think, is going to be better than people think. And then after that, there's Toronto and Tampa. In the American League Central, well, I can tell you who the bottom feeders are. Detroit and Kansas City. After that, I think Minnesota is going to be much better pitching-wise. After that, it's going to be Cleveland. And then I think the Chicago White Sox might surprise some people. I think they could be a 500 club. The Western Division, in spite of them losing Garrett Cole, I still think the Astros can win the Western Division. The Angels are going to be slightly better. Oakland, I think, is going to be dangerous. Then after that, the Texas Rangers and Seattle Mariners are the two bottom feeders in that division. The National League, by far, the Atlanta Braves are the best team in the division right now. They've really got it going on. Plus, when you think about it, a couple of the additions that they made might put them over the top in the division. So it's going to be the Braves. I think the Phillies are going to be really, really dangerous now that they have Zach Wheeler. Their pitching staff is much better. Washington, I think, is going to tumble a little bit. I think they're going to fall down to third place. And now that there's no Anthony Rendon, I think their pitching will save them, but it's going to be a little hard trying to find a really big bopper for them. There's an idea. Why not bring in Yasiel Puig to sign with the Washington Nationals? I mean, they need that punch. But then again, that's just me. The Mets, as far as I'm concerned, I want to say that they're going to be better than advertised, but I just don't see it. After that, Florida is going to be the bottom feeder there.
Because I look at it, the Mets do have a really great pitching staff, 1 through 5.
Great or good?
Okay, good. They have a really good starting 5 pitching staff.
If you want to look at great, the Dodgers' pitching staff is great. The Mets are good at the most because
1 through 5, though, the Dodgers, or 1 through 3?
1 through 5, of course. As far as the Mets are concerned, I mean, you figure Syndergaard is going to be the ace, and then DeGrom is going to be the number 2 guy. And then after that, maybe, actually 3, 4, and 5 would be a real crapshoot. Steven Matz, and also the 2 new guys that they brought in.
What about
In addition to Marcus Stroman, well, I think Matz and Stroman could probably fight between the 3 and the 4th spots. Numbers 5 and possibly 6 would go between Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha. Pitching-wise, they're going to be good. Hitting-wise, they're going to have a lot of problems scoring runs. After Peter Alonso, who's going to be the guy that any pitching staff is going to have problems facing? Michael Conforto? He's hit or miss at the most. Other than that, Robinson Cano is dying a slow death at the plate. Ahmed Rosario made strides at the plate last season, but can he really keep it up for another season? And also at the third base spot, Jeff McNeil, maybe? Who knows? We mentioned the outfield. There's Conforto, there's Cespedes, there's also Brandon Nimmo. Right now, Yoenis Cespedes could be the biggest wild card in this because he looks really powerful. But let's see what he could do at the plate. And behind the plate, you figure Wilson Ramos is going to be the everyday catcher. But then again, who's going to back him up? And then there's the big question mark, the bullpen.
And the bench.
And the bench. The bullpen and the bench are going to be two of the biggest question marks right there. That's why I say the Mets might fall down to fourth place in their division this season. As far as who wins the Central Division, the Cardinals won the Central Division last year, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was Milwaukee. Milwaukee and St. Louis might be the two best teams in the division right now. I still say that Chicago might scare some people, in spite of the fact that they have a new manager. So it's going to be. I think St. Louis takes back that Central Division, and then after that, Milwaukee becomes the wild card. Chicago, the Cubs, that is, I think are going to be up and down at the most, although they'll still give people some trouble. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are the two bottom feeders in that division. I say Pittsburgh is probably the worst of the worst. And as for the West, by far it's the Dodgers. And after that, you look at what Arizona has done, getting not only Starling Marte, but also making the deal to get Madison Bumgarner. I think the Diamondbacks could be the second best team in the division right there. Maybe they become that second wild card. After that, I think Colorado might be dangerous. San Diego and San Francisco round out the bottom two in that division.
And your prediction for a wild card, a sleeper?
My prediction for a wild card?
Or a sleeper?
Don't be surprised if you see the Philadelphia Phillies sneak in there and take that second spot away from either Arizona or Milwaukee. I think Philly's pitching staff is really, really strong.
Because I can say this much. Throughout the league, there's how many new managers are there now? 5, 6?
Let's see. I know that there's one, Joe Girardi took over in Philadelphia. The Mets, of course, have their new manager, which is Luis Ramos. Also, the Chicago Cubs have a new manager of their own. San Francisco has a new manager. Houston has a new manager. Boston has a new manager. So that's 6 new managers that I know of that are going to be under the spotlight this season.
And with some of the teams that they have, they're going to be tested to see if they actually. Because Philly, like you said, Girardi, with the team that he has, with Gregorius and the outfielder, the one that used to be in Colorado, and some of the pitchers that they have, that you're right, that's going to be a strong team.
Yeah.
If everything pans out.
And let me correct myself. It's Luis Rojas, who's the manager of the Mets now.
And let me ask you, how did you enjoy the XFL?
Overall, it was cool. I mean, yesterday's game was not necessarily well played. The game between Washington and Seattle was reasonably played, and I love the rules that they have instituted for the league this season. For example, have you seen on? You still there, Hector? Hector? Well, it looks like he unfortunately wound up having his call. Uh oh. Well, this isn't sounding good, so it looks more and more like we're going to have to try and get Hector back somehow. So let me just get a little help over here. Anyway, while we're putting up with this busy signal, we're going to tell you that the XFL officially started for the first time since 2001. We apologize for this, folks. Anyway, Kenny Graham is back on the other side of the glass. Anyway, they started the first season of the XFL, and they brought in some quirky new rules to try and make things a little more interesting. First off, as far as extra points after touchdowns, they're not going to kick the extra point. They're actually going to give the team the choice of going for either 1, 2, or 3 rather, which I think is a terrific idea. If you go for 1, it's going to be at the 1 yard line. If you go for 3, if you go for 2 rather, it's from the 3 yard line, and if you go for 3, it's from the 5 yard line, which is a very very interesting rule that they're going to have. As for the kickoffs after touchdowns, they're going to have the kicking team and receiving team line up against each other on the 30-yard line and the 40-yard line, and they're not allowed to start either blocking or try to get off the blocks until the receiving team touches the ball. So I think this is a good idea. It cuts down on injuries, and most of all, it creates a chance for more long returns. So that's one thing that we're going to be seeing with these new rules in the XFL now. Now, as far as the team that we have here in the New York area, the New York team wound up winning just yesterday, so they're off to a pretty good start. And I think I hear Hector over the phone right now. Hector, is that you?
Yes, that is me. I mean, I'm glad that the New York team won. Now, what are the chances of the New York team actually making it through?
If you look at the experts, they're not expecting New York to go that far. They're only expecting them to go with 4 wins this season. For the record, the New York team is known as the Guardians.
They're expecting Dallas to make it.
Yeah, they're expecting Dallas to be the champion this year. For the record, the championship game is going to be played April 26th. And the Guardians won 23-3 over the Tampa Bay Vipers. And St. Louis, which is known as the Battlehawks, won 15-9 over the Dallas Renegades yesterday. And then on Saturday, the game that was, for the record, every single game was on national television. The DC Defenders beat the Seattle Dragons 31-19, and the Houston Roughnecks beat the Los Angeles Wildcats 37-17.
Do you know who the play-by-play guys were? Regular play-by-play guys?
Unfortunately, not. I didn't really get in touch with who the play-by-play guys were. Hopefully, we'll be able to find out who they are next weekend. Yeah. And for the record, the games are going to be broadcast on ABC, Fox, and ESPN.
Because I'm thinking that it's enjoyable, for those people that always hunger for football.
I mean, Overall, it was a nice start to the season. By the way, the team has the league has 8 teams. The Eastern Division has New York, D.C., Tampa, and St. Louis, while the West has Dallas, Houston, Seattle, and Los Angeles. Here's one thing that I'm a little concerned about. For the game in New York yesterday, I don't think that there were any more than 20 or 30,000 fans over at MetLife Stadium. And that is not a good sign. Now, over in D.C., they decided to play the game over at D.C. United's soccer stadium. And that actually was a little bit more intimate for the fans and the players as well. One thing that I don't like, though, is the fact that these sideline reporters always have to squeeze a microphone in a player's face every single time, especially after scoring plays. One of the reporters actually put her microphone in, and the guy barely said anything. All he was doing was just screaming. So now that's one thing that they really need to cut down on.
Yeah, that's one thing they should stop. But all in all, do you think it's going to be a fun season, or do you think it's just going to be a flop?
Let's see.
And how long do you give it?
Let's go week by week this time, because as we all know, with the Alliance of American Football, they only lasted 8 weeks, and they were never heard from again. Let's see what happens in week 2. I mean, overall it was good, but let's see what happens in week 2 with this new league.
I heard Dallas.
And the Dodger trade is official. It's Mookie Betts and David Price, along with some money from the Red Sox to the Dodgers, for Alex Verdugo, an infield prospect named Jeter Downs, and a catcher infield prospect named Connor Wong.
Wow. Big trade. Big trade for both.
Mm-hmm. So now I want to see what Mookie Betts does in the second largest market in LA. He was able to thrive a little bit in Boston, but now he's in Los Angeles, a market that's pretty soft by fans' standards. But the media has the reputation where they could be a little bit unforgiving when it comes to their glamour teams, specifically the Dodgers and the Lakers.
Who's got most power? The Dodgers or the Lakers?
Who's got the most star power, or who's got the most power
On the team.
performance-wise?
I'm talking team. Does the Dodgers have more power, or do the Lakers have more power?
That's apples and oranges, man. I mean, you're talking about 2 different sports right there. Now, if you're talking about more star power, then that would be the Lakers. If you're talking about more power to try and get victories, again, apples and oranges.
Who will they want to see more? The baseball or basketball?
You know, that's a really good question, because the Dodgers draw 56,000 fans for every home game, and the Lakers draw almost 19,000 fans for every home game as well. So, numbers-wise, it's going to be the Dodgers. Buzz-wise, right now, the Lakers have more buzz. Although, if you were to ask me, the Dodgers are creating that buzz because they wound up getting one of the best players in the game.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to. You always need somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, Jamal Adams hypes up potential FA target Yakni Nguru, Ngakoue.
I have no idea what you just said.
The guy, his name is Yanick.
Yeah.
That's the first name. Last name is Ngakoue.
Yannick Ngakwe?
Yeah, Jamal Adams hypes up the potential PA target. I'm assuming that the Jets are targeting this dude.
You're probably either in free agency or the draft.
Probably through the draft.
Because
then,
because I saw on one of the stories that came out online, and supposedly the Jets. Yeah, here it is. Jamal Adams hypes up potential free agent target Yannick Ngakwe. Ngakwe, of course, spent this past season on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, anything that they can do to try and get a pass rush, I'm all for. And Ngakwe is a young guy who still has a lot of promise. So there's plenty of time for them to try and get something for their pass rush. And I also saw that the Jets were looking at a couple of guys from the Southeastern Conference, specifically Alabama and LSU, to try and make a pick at number 11. That's
Should they attempt to trade up?
Should they try to trade up? If the opportunity is there, then yes, they should try and trade up, specifically for an offensive lineman or a receiver or a defensive player, any defensive player that they could look for, specifically a pass rusher.
Should the Raiders take Keith Murray?
The football player or the rapper?
No, the football player.
I'm not sure if you caught the reference there, but Keith Murray was a guy who was a hip hop artist who came out with one good song about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, if they could try and get Keith Murray, then more power to them.
How about Cowboys taking Xavier McKinney from Alabama?
Possibly. The Cowboys, they really do need defensive stoppers at the most.
And I got to tell you, what do you think about the New York Knicks doing what they've done?
I don't.
They actually won 3 games straight.
They also lost to one of the worst teams in the league, which was the Hawks.
Hey, they got
the Atlanta Hawks have 2 players that are even worth a damn. John Collins and Trae Young. Trae Young had a 45-point game against them over the weekend. The Hawks have nothing else going for them on that roster. And somehow the Knicks again lose to a team that, quite frankly, they should have been better than. And they were not.
They beat 3 other teams. They beat, think of it, they beat Miami.
That loss trumps any momentum. Yes, it does. And that loss trumps any momentum that they had from those 3 wins. Those 3 wins mean nothing now. Because now they're back at the bottom end of the totem pole.
They beat a playoff team.
So what?
They beat a couple of playoff
so
teams.
what?
You gotta give them credit.
No. Hell no. What should I give them credit for? Just because they won 3 measly games and then followed it up with a loss to the Hawks? Forget it. I'm not doing that.
Do you give them credit for getting rid of one of the GMs.
That was the first sensible thing that they've done in maybe 5 or 10 years.
Now, I sent you a couple of reports on the Knicks on who the GM should be. Now, out of all the GMs,
I was under the impression that it was going to be Leon Rose and that he was going to bring in Worldwide West to be his right-hand man. I guess that those talks kind of stalled a little bit because it's still that one doofus that's running the show right now.
true, and I agree with you on that. But let's say they do get Leon. Do you see anything good coming out of this? Because isn't he an agent?
Yeah, Leon Rose is an agent, and Chris Paul is one of his clients.
So, I mean, I don't see. How old is Chris Paul?
Chris Paul is about he's approaching his 35th birthday, and he's also been hurt the previous couple of years.
Now, Chris
Although
Paul,
this year he's been the lone reason why the Oklahoma City Thunder have even made a dent in the NBA playoff race this year. More than just make a dent, they're 10 games over 500 now. See, this is the difference between Sam Presti, who's the general manager of Thunder, and the general managers of every single bottom feeder that's in professional sports right now, not just the NBA. Sam Presti knows what the hell he's doing. He took a chance on Chris Paul, a guy who literally was broken down from head to toe.
Wasn't he traded?
Yeah, he was traded to Oklahoma City by Houston.
Right.
And the Heat wanted to get Chris Paul because Chris Paul did not want any part of being in Oklahoma City. But what happened? Sam Presti gave him a little talking to and said, if you just play hard and trust your teammates, good things might happen. And you know what? Things have happened for Oklahoma City. Their record now is 32-21, and they're tied for 6th place in the Western Conference playoff race. It is absolutely amazing what this guy has done to try and keep this team a contender, while all the while acquiring draft picks.
Now, where do you see the Knicks? Which GM do you think the Knicks will get?
At this rate, they're probably better off getting Leon Rose because I'll tell you right now, there is no one else with even 1/4 of a brain that's going to want that job. At this rate, the Knicks are going to join the Mets and the other teams that wound up employing agents to hire as a general manager.
Because I heard that the Mets, the guy that was going to buy the Mets, I heard that was falling through.
Yeah, the deal's off. Steve Cohen officially called off the deal because leave it to the Wilpons to try and change the terms of this deal. They had everything set up so well, and the Wilpons had to just screw everything up.
They didn't want to give up the power.
They didn't want to give up the power. And I'll bet you there was a little bit of money involved, too.
Well, I'm sure. I think because I was hearing that they just didn't want to give up the power. They wanted to be 49-51. 48-51.
Leave it to those guys to infuriate their fan base even more. They care nothing about the fans. They only care about themselves. And because of this, the Mets are going to be even more of a quagmire.
The way James Dolan said he would not sell the team, even though people were yelling to sell the team. And I'm surprised he didn't get angry enough to go, you know what? Nobody's coming to Madison Square Garden because he's such a big baby.
Then he'll never make money.
Exactly. That's my whole point. Because if he's willing to throw out a couple of fans because they're saying dumb things about him, then you might as well throw out and get rid of everybody. Because they're telling you sell the team because you're screwing up.
See, why can't these fans just boycott the Garden and not go to the games? I mean, it sounds easy, but
it's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
It's a hard thing to do because there are people that want to get their basketball fix. Well, if they really want to get their basketball fix, go watch the Brooklyn Nets. Or better yet, watch some college ball or high school ball.
Yeah. But here's one thing. Now, as for who wants to be the GM for the New York Knicks, anybody that needs a job or that wants a job, just like all the coaches that you kept on saying, why would anybody want to coach here? And yet somehow they coach here like Dave Fitzgerald. I mean, you would think that he'd be smart enough not to want to coach here, but he wasn't coaching. And he figured, you know what, let me give it a shot. And he did. And it didn't work out. So this is why I'm going. If they get a GM, now the one good thing, like I said, that they have in their favor is the fact that if you get the right GM, they have a lot of draft picks. Now, you hope that the GM that they pick knows enough about getting who they can get in the draft pick, in the draft.
And I keep telling you, there is no one that stupid that's going to take that job.
No, there's always someone that needs a job. You keep on saying that, but what about coaches that want to
Which do they need more, their job or their sanity?
Their jobs. Because they want to prove that they can coach. That's the thing. Because the guy, Luke Walton, right? He coached the Lakers. And look at the mayhem that was going on over there with the brother and sister.
Oh,
right?
Brother.
He goes there, does horrible job. Goes to another team, does a really good job. So this is what I'm saying. It's a stepping stone. It doesn't necessarily that you're done.
Sacramento is not playing so well, Hector. He's not doing such a good job.
But he's showing that he can coach a little.
He may show that he can coach, but he has not been dealt a very, very pleasant hand right now.
True.
And because of that, the Kings are 10 games under 500.
But my point is, when you need a job, for those people, think of it as a regular job. Let's say you don't like your job.
Hector, a job with a New York sports franchise is not a regular job. It comes with intense pressure.
Yes.
It's not just the Knicks. It's the Nets, the Yankees, the Mets, the Jets, the Giants, the Knicks, the Nets, the Rangers, Islanders, and Devils. All of those come with intense scrutiny.
And some people can handle it and some people can't. But you can't say, oh, who would want the job? There's plenty of people that would want a job because if they succeed, then they become kings. If they don't succeed, but they actually do a decent job, they can go somewhere else and become better people.
You know what's a really good job in New York sports now? The Yankees and the Brooklyn Nets. You know why? Because their stock is rising sky high. You know what else is a good job? The Islanders. Of all places, the Islanders.
Lou Lamoriello.
Because Lou Lamoriello has turned that franchise upside down. There's a reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. Because he's a brilliant, brilliant personnel guy. And what's going on with the Islanders? They're a wild card right now. And I would be really, really hesitant to want to play that team in a first-round series. because we saw what they did last season.
Now, why do you think that Amarillo went to the Islanders?
What's that?
Why do you think Lou Amarillo wanted to join the Islanders?
Because Lou Lamoriello is a fierce, no-nonsense guy who is so confident in his ability that he could probably take a Pee Wee League team and turn them into a champion. That's how brilliant of a guy he is. And the Islanders, they were probably missing a few pieces that would have made them a really, really top-notch contender. And what has this guy done? All he's done is make one deal here and one deal there. Probably the most underrated deal that he's made is the one getting the goalie, Semyon Varlamov, because Semyon Varlamov has been outstanding this season.
Oh, yeah. Isn't there a controversy between the goalies on the Rangers?
Yes, there is. There's a major controversy between Henrik Lundqvist and the Russian kid who has won 4 out of 5 starts this season. He's been outstanding. It's only been 5 games, but all of a sudden, people want to see this kid start in goal a lot more.
Is that fair?
Should it be fair? No, it shouldn't have to be fair, because Henrik Lundqvist is a proud veteran who's won game after game for that franchise for 15 years now. Almost 15 years. He's taken them to a Stanley Cup final. He's won about 400 to 500 games for his career. So I think there should be a little due diligence to the seasoned veteran.
So, going back to the GMs for a moment. So the 11 guys that are potential to want the Knicks job, who do you think is the one that would fit? I mean, everybody wants Messiah, what's his name? But giving up 2 draft choices or something. But anybody else, who did you like?
Well, I really like Sam Presti. The kid's a complete and utter genius. And knowing how Oklahoma City is really protective of their general manager, they're either going to reject them cold, or if the Knicks insist, then Thunder is going to want the sun, the moon, and the stars if they're going to be forced to let go of Presti. That's the guy that the Knicks should have right now, Sam Presti.
How about Walsh? Donnie Walsh?
Donnie Walsh or Donnie Nelson?
Donnie Nelson. I'm sorry.
Cut from the same cloth as his father. He was a brilliant head coach and general manager when he was with the Bucks and the Warriors. He made the Warriors a really good contender for a while. I mean, he was the one that had Chris Mullin and Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway. Also drafted Chris Mullin. Unfortunately, that turned into a big-time feud, which lasted a whole season. So after that wound up chasing Nelson into retirement for a short time. So right now, if I had to guess, I would give Donnie Nelson a bit of a shot. Now,
how about that coach? I mean, the agent. Would you give him a shot?
You mean Leon Rose?
Mm-hmm.
If he is serious, I mean really, really serious about wanting a job as a general manager in the NBA, then let's see him prove it in probably the biggest cesspool in the league right now, which is Madison Square Garden. And I'm going to tell you right now, he better really be careful what he wishes for, because he is just gonna get it.
Wasn't he a CIA agent or something?
He's with CAA Sports.
Oh, okay.
And he manages a ton of clients. Chris Paul being one of them.
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving too.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant also.
So, but he would have to give up that job in order to get this job. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. Why would you want to give up being a maybe I don't know which one's harder, being a GM or trying to get contracts for people.
What's the harder job? Being a general manager is definitely a harder job. As far as being an agent is concerned, it's practically just negotiating contracts with guys. And it's not just with teams either. Some of them are getting tons and tons of interests from other companies regarding endorsement deals. And these guys, they're going to want a pretty penny as far as trying to endorse some kind of product is concerned.
Well, I can tell you this much about contracts. Some of them are bigger than the Bible and War and Peace.
Yeah, this is so true.
And I'll tell you, it's going to be whoever they get as a GM. I hope this guy has a little bit of brains, because you have a lot of draft picks, and I don't know who's coming out this year. So, I mean, look at the way they traded Marcus Morris.
Yeah.
Well, get into the Clippers.
The one saving grace, I should say, about that Marcus Morris trade is the fact that the Knicks got the Queens kid, Mo Harkless, who played a year at St. John's. I'd like to see what the kid does. He's already proven himself to be a nice player, and I think he can really help somebody out. He's a big guy with a lot of toughness. Scoring wise, he won't give you much, but defensively and toughness wise, he's going to give you a real bargain.
Well, like I said, because now they have the 20 draft choice and the 2021 or 22 draft choice, they can flip that.
Yeah.
So, again, planning upon the GM that you get, you hope that he's smart enough to go, oh, look at how many draft choices. Or try to get that kid, Towns.
Karl Anthony Towns?
Yeah. Maybe they can get him, because he wants to leave. You just got to figure out what you're going to take.
Let's see exactly what this kid really thinks by the time the season ends. And another thing about these draft picks, at this rate, the Knicks would be picking either 4th or 5th in the NBA draft coming up. And
it all depends how the ball bounces.
Yeah. The one lottery pick hopeful that I was able to see play a little bit was Cole Anthony, who, by the way, is Greg Anthony's son. Cole Anthony went to Molloy High School and then played 1 year of prep school, then went to North Carolina. He's not much of a shooter, but let me tell you, he's got a real nose for the ball and a real nose for taking it strong to the basket. So that's going to do it for us. Yeah. Thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass. Thanks to you guys for watching at home. And thanks to Hector for joining us on the phone. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.